Good day, good people, and welcome to Contemplative Inner Being. Tonight we are reflecting on life in the Spirit. If you will, let me know in the chat section that you are hearing and seeing everything well before we move on. We'll give you just a minute to make sure that our audio and video is working well. Yes, yep, Stitch there in the background. Ohana. Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. Well, welcome everyone. Whether you are here for the live session or watching the recording, we thank you for being with us, and let us all share in the chat section a welcome to Colleen. I believe that it may be the first time she's joined us live, so thank you for being here. We're glad to have you. Our evening progresses with a few minutes in contemplative practice, then reflection, conversation, reflection, silence, and conversation. And you are invited at any time that something comes to your heart to enter into the chat section, whether it is a comment, a question, a reflection, or an echo of something you heard, or maybe you just want to type in something there so you have it for your note-taking capability. We love to hear from you during the evening. Take a moment now, if you will, to find your seat, be comfortable and yet alert, to breathe normally but mindfully. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And let us enter into the contemplative practice of silence for just a few minutes together. friends, we practice silence to bring us to that place of presence and to experience presence itself. And you're invited tonight as you listen to listen from that place of presence, that deep heart listening, not the head listening that we like to do with analyzing and memorizing. As we talk about the life in the Spirit, what we're talking about is to truly live in the Spirit, is not to chase a feeling or grasp at a distant light in the clouds. It's not about mastering doctrine or polishing belief. It is more like stepping barefoot onto warm earth after a long winter indoors, sensing something ancient and alive that has always been underfoot, even when forgotten. The Spirit is already here, humming in the silence between words, stirring the leaves, animating breath. Even though we so often pray, "Come, Holy Spirit," the gift of the Spirit is already given. The Spirit is not late. We are often absent. And even when present, we are too quick to assume absence. People often ask, if the Holy Spirit is given, then why does it feel like nothing is happening? Why do our lives so easily collapse into habit, cynicism, and fear? Why do our prayers feel empty, our churches dry, our world weary? And the answer is not found in divine withholding, but in human sleep. We are temples, yes, but many of us are locked from within. We have been gifted the key, yet hesitate to turn it. And this hesitation is not failure, it is invitation. We would do well to fan into the flame the gift that we've already have. To live in the Spirit is to let ourselves be surprised by love. The Spirit doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It seeps through the cracks of our self-protection. It waits patiently in neglected places, in the ache behind our busyness, in the eyes of strangers we avoid, in the quiet yearning we carry but rarely name. And to live in the Spirit is to listen, to attune, to trust that the unnameable warmth we sometimes feel is not illusion but presence. There is something deeply unsettling about this kind of life. The Spirit does not come to reinforce our certainty, but to shake it. And Christian theology has typically privileged knowledge about Jesus as the way to know the Spirit, but the Christian life works the opposite way. The life of the Spirit is not a concept to be mastered, but a relationship to be surrendered to. It's not knowing about God, but being known by God. This reversal is uncomfortable, and it requires a loosening of ego, a willingness to be undone. And yet this undoing is grace. The Spirit meets us in our unguarded moments, not our polished personas. When we begin to open, we start to see what has been true all along. The Spirit moves through everything. This is not abstract theology. It is living awareness. It is a shift in how we see and feel and act. Living in the Spirit, then, is not about ascending, but deepening. It's not a ladder, but a descent into the body, into the heart, into the mysterious interior where God dwells. It is there we discover that love is not a command, but a capacity. The gift of the Spirit is God's own power to love unconditionally and to transform the world by that power. And this is where it becomes both deeply personal and radically social. The Spirit is not a private consolation prize. It is a force that unravels our isolation and demands we show up, that we show up to the pain of the world, that we show up to the needs of our neighbors, that we show up to the injustice we would rather ignore. Why do so few recognize this gift? Because to see it is to be changed by it. And change, real, soul-deep change, can be terrifying. It threatens the false identities we have worked so hard to maintain. The Spirit doesn't just comfort, it confronts. It stirs the settled dust, overturns the tables we've built in the temples of our own control. It is like fire, yes, but fire that burns away everything that is not love. And this is why we fear it. And this is why we long for it. And this longing is not weakness. It is the very doorway to spirit life. To hunger for more than what the world offers is the beginning of waking up. The saints, the mystics, the quiet ones who live close to the ground, they have always known this, and they tell us, go slower, listen longer, and dare to believe that the stillness you avoid is where God waits. The Spirit is not loud, it whispers, it nudges, it rarely forces, and yet it is the most powerful presence we can know. It is God's breath in our breath, God's life in our limbs. And to live in the Spirit is to let that breath move us, not just inward into comfort, but outward into risk. Not just inward into comfort, but outward into risk. And this is the paradox. The highest form of self-possession is the capacity to give ourselves away. This is the way of Christ, the way of the Spirit, an endless self-giving that does not deplete but renews. And friends, in this giving, something astonishing happens. We become more ourselves, not less. We come to see that our individuality is not erased by surrender, but enlivened. We are freed not from ourselves, but for ourselves. And this kind of freedom can't be faked. This kind of freedom cannot be faked. It is not performance. It is not pretense. It flows from within, from a heart that knows it is held. This is what it means to live in the Spirit. Not perfection, but participation. Not certainty, but trust. Not arrival, but becoming. We will still falter. We will forget. We will close off and numb out and fall back into the old grooves of fear and self-concern. But the Spirit never withdraws. She waits. She is the quiet patience between every return, the subtle radiance behind every moment of grace. And she never stops inviting. The door is always open. Living in the Spirit then is a practice of remembering, not as nostalgia, but as awakening. We remember that we are already held, already indwelt, already beloved. We remember that transformation is not a prize at the end of the road, but the road itself. And we remember that the divine is not far off, but near, so near it is within. It is closer to us than our breath. And if we want to recognize the Spirit, we must learn to live with a listening ear. We must learn to see through the eyes of those who have come before us, those whose lives become luminous not because they were perfect, but because they surrendered. And we must trust that there is a wisdom deeper than opinion, a love deeper than approval, a presence deeper than sensation. And we must be willing to be led. There are no techniques for this. There's no shortcuts. Just the slow work of daily opening, the quiet courage of choosing love, the small hidden acts that create space for grace to move. And if we do this, if we begin, even imperfectly, we will find ourselves surprised. We will notice a warmth where there was once numbness, a gentleness where there was once defensiveness, a vitality we thought we had lost. This, my friends, is life in the Spirit. It has already begun. And the only question is whether we will say yes. So in the chat section, let us know. Will you say yes? Take a gentle breath and feel the Spirit flowing in and out of you, being received and given, and happens in each moment. And let us take this opportunity to be with the Spirit as we fade into silence once again. Take a moment if you'd like to share anything in the chat section, and we'll continue. As always, you can do so even while I'm speaking. This is an interaction, a dialogue, so I'm happy to pause at any time there's something you would like to share. And yes, I say yes also. Now, friends, to speak of the Holy Spirit is to speak of movement, of breath stirring dust into life, of fire warming and refining, of wind rushing where it will. And the Spirit does not hover at a distance, but it longs to indwell, to accompany, to empower. And the presence of the Spirit is not a distant abstraction. It's an interior pulse, a sacred aliveness that draws individuals and communities into deeper communion, justice, and renewal. This presence has always sought willing vessels, people and places through which divine energy might flow freely. Jesus said, it's better that I go away so the Spirit can come. Because of his absence, we discover the Spirit of Christ right here within. And this mysterious advantage of absence invites us into intimacy. No longer reliant on external sight, we are drawn inward, where the voice of the Spirit gently stirs our hidden depths. And here, in that hidden place, we are met not by doctrine or demand, but by a sacred whisper inviting us to surrender, to awaken, and to participate. Can you hear it? The early community of Jesus followers experienced this vividly at Pentecost. Tongues of fire rested on every person, not just the educated or elite, and suddenly a multilingual harmony arose where confusion once reigned. You see, God did not unite the world under one imperial language. The power of God made it possible to have unity in the midst of diversity. The Spirit did not erase difference, it made space for it. It celebrated it, and it revealed that diversity is not a problem to solve, but a revelation of divine creativity. That moment, so often romanticized, was also radical. It redefined what it meant to be together. Friends, the work of the Spirit is deeply inclusive and deeply disruptive. That the Spirit fills all and rests on all, not just somebody's, that provides an opportunity for those deemed non-human to reclaim their humanity in God. Pentecost broke open the old frameworks of power and privilege. And the Spirit poured herself into slaves and free people, women and men, the young and the old. And it was not a gesture of tolerance, but it was a declaration of sacred worth. She is the equalizer, the holy resistor, the one who lifts the lowly and humbles the mighty, and not through force, but through presence. In this Spirit-led community, transformation is not self-improvement. It is a yielding, a softening, a kind of inner breaking that allows something altogether new to emerge. And we recognize that this Spirit transforms us to become the best that we can be by our love. Not our knowledge, not our achievements, not our purity, but our capacity to love, to see rightly, to act with tenderness and courage in a fractured world. Love becomes the Spirit's measuring stick, and justice becomes love's outward working in public. Justice is what love looks like in public. But for this love to be real and not performative, it must be cultivated in a space of radical interior honesty. This is why silence is such an amazing spiritual practice, because it strips away all externalities. And that is where prayer shifts from obligation to encounter. Without a conscious living in the flow of the Spirit, through us, within us, and for us, I think prayer can become merely functional. Without the Spirit, prayer is recitation. With her, it is communion. Without the Spirit, liturgy is routine. With her, it is rhythm and dance and breath. The Spirit doesn't merely assist our spiritual practice, she is the lifeblood of it. The Spirit is not satisfied with our systems, our polished beliefs, or our controlled structures. She resists being caged. She is the one who blows open our fixed ideas, our hardened hearts, and even our well-meaning institutions. She invites us to let go, not just of sin, but let go of certainty. She lures us beyond the edge of what we know into what we can only trust. To live in the Spirit is to embrace fluidity in place of rigidity, humility in place of control, and openness in place of fear. And how does this shape leadership, power, and community? Outside of the Spirit, authority becomes domination. Inside of the Spirit, authority becomes service. Friends, leadership disconnected from the Spirit tends to protect itself, to hoard influence, to demand obedience. But leadership soaked in the Spirit becomes gentle, porous, listening, lifting. The Spirit redefines power not as control, but as capacity. Capacity for compassion, capacity for presence, capacity for risk. And the Spirit also rewrites our collective stories. She enters institutions, churches, schools, governments, not to anoint them as they are, but to agitate and awaken. She stirs prophets where tradition has settled into comfort. She empowers the voiceless where religion has upheld silence. Her presence within a community means that no one is too small, no one is too broken, and no one is too different to be a vessel of divine light. But she does not coerce. Love is never imposed. It is always an invitation, and the Spirit invites. She waits for our yes. Put it in the chat section again, your yes. And often, this yes begins not in grand gestures, but in small awakenings, a stirring in prayer, a moment of clarity, a deeper breath in the midst of despair. These are the signs of her movement. Subtle yet unmistakable. And over time, a life surrendered to the Spirit becomes more supple, more alive, more attuned to the pain and the beauty of the world. Yes, the Spirit is always moving toward communion between individuals, across differences, and beyond borders. Her impulse is unity, not uniformity. She delights in difference without division. She is the sacred current carrying us from alienation to intimacy. She breathes through ancient wisdom and new expressions alike, reminding us that the journey is never finished. The revelation continues. Friends, to follow the Spirit then is to become a participant in the ongoing transformation of the world. It is to choose reconciliation over revenge, collaboration over competition, tenderness over domination. It is to welcome the outsider, honor the forgotten, and listen for the sacred in the unexpected. It is to live not by what we can control, but what we can receive. And so the questions come again and again. Will we make space for the Spirit's fire and breath? Will we let go of our certainties and become students of the divine flow? Will we release our grip on rigid religion and risk the wildness of Spirit-led life? It is not easy. The Spirit will disrupt our comforts and question our assumptions. And she will also heal, restore, and guide us home to ourselves. Guide us home to one another. Guide us home to the divine presence at the heart of all things. We do have a few more minutes for conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Anything at all you'd like to share, echo, question, reflect on. Keep in mind, friends, the Holy Spirit is not merely an element of belief, but it is the very energy of transformation. She is the guide, the fire, the breath that continues to shape lives and communities throughout time. And her presence demands openness, and her movement brings renewal. If we are willing, the Spirit will not only dwell within us, but will shape us into people of love, people of humility, people of justice, and people of radical aliveness. So let me take a breath and receive that Spirit and give you an opportunity to share your thoughts in the chat. Bo is sharing something from earlier, the importance to slow down and listen longer. We certainly seem to live in a very hurried culture, and the desire for immediate results. And we seem to listen to respond instead of listen to understand. I'll pause for just a few more moments. I thought I saw someone else typing. While we're letting others ponder their thoughts or type, just as a reminder, each week at about 11 a.m., 11:15 a.m. Central Time each day, you will see a post on the Mighty Network. It's also on Substack if you're there. And it is along this same theme of Holy Spirit. There was one today, and you'll see one all the way through Saturday. And it's just a way to keep it fresh and provide you a way to continue to reflect on this theme of life in the Spirit. So please feel free to interact with that, to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments for each of those posts as well. Or even share what you're experiencing. Again, friends, whether you were here for the live session or you are watching the recording, thank you so much for being here. May the Spirit already present within us stir our hearts to love more deeply and serve more gently. And may we welcome the quiet nudges that invite us to surrender certainty and awaken to the living breath of the divine in all things. And may our lives be opened and be marked by openness, marked by humility, and marked by courage as we participate in the ongoing movement of grace and transformation. Until next time, and I hope to see you again soon. Blessings to all. Good night.